Otome game news have been getting crazier and crazier lately. From long-awaited Otome Switch ports we didn't see coming, to more companies finally doing English localizations, release date announcements, and even more brand new titles. I was honestly shocked by all of these updates and so excited. And if you somehow missed them, don't worry because there's no way I'm letting you miss out on this. You're coming down this excitement rabbit hole with me. We need to hype this together, okay? So, are you with me yet? Buckle up because today's Otome news is going to be really exciting. Heartflop XL, romance meets Nihongo. Before that, if you love visual novel story-rich or Otome games, or if you want to learn Japanese with Otome games and experience some heart-fluffy romance, I suggest you to subscribe to this channel because you are in the right place. Let's start with the news that so many people have been waiting for. Yes, the most awaited Otome game Crazy Chain finally has a release date, and this is happening on June 4, 2026. People have been especially excited about this one because it shares the same theme as Shuinovich, so expectations are already incredibly high considering how popular Virch is in our community. Alongside the release date announcements, they've also started gradually revealing what the product will look like, including promotional CGs, bonuses, and more detailed information about the game. So if you're interested in Crazy Chain, I really recommend checking out the official website so you don't miss anything, especially if you're planning to pre-order it. And honestly, seeing Crazy Chain's popularity even before its release really made me reflect on how far Otome games have come, because the next news is something I genuinely never thought would happen. An Otome classic finally getting an official release. Yes, the Prince of Tennis Otome games are finally coming in English. The titles are The Prince of Tennis Sweet School Festival 4D and More and The Prince of Tennis Doki Doki Survival Eternal Passion Tiebreak. These are remastered editions of the original Prince of Tennis Otome games. In their latest updates on social media, Konami has also revealed the official game covers, including how the English version cover looks. And honestly, seeing that made it feel so real. They've also updated the Steam page and confirmed that English and Chinese will be available. And yes, this will be Konami's first Otome games to receive an official English localization. Isn't that crazy? If you didn't know, Konami is the developer behind one of the most popular Otome franchises out there, Tokimeki Memorial Girl Side. And despite its huge popularity among English-speaking fans, we never really got an official localization. But now, it's finally happening. This will also be the first time Konami released their Otome games on Steam. I mean, oh my, we honestly deserve this so much. After so many years, guys, of waiting, who would have thought we'd live to see the day when Konami finally localized their Otome games? I've always wondered why so many of their titles had English versions, but their Otome games didn't. But now, things might actually be different. And listen, does this mean there's hope for future Konami Otome games to be localized too? Tokimemo Girl Side 5 maybe? I don't know what will happen with older titles, but this announcement definitely makes me hopeful that we might see more Konami Otome games in English in the future. And the future of Otome games doesn't stop there because Mintlip, a company that's been producing drama series for a long time and has already turned some of their titles into games like Him Smile and Bloom and Handsome Laundering, seems to be seriously shifting their focus toward game development. That's why they've created a new sub-brand called Mintlip Plus, which will specifically focus on making games. And for their very first original Otome game projects, they've already announced 2 titles. The first one is Project Sign Astrea, a full-fledged crime suspense Otome game. Illustration haven't been revealed yet. And the second one is Project Sign Invisible, described as Yokai X Smoke X question mark. That immediately caught my attention. Crime suspense is one of my favorite genres, and Yokai X Smoke X question mark? Like, what does that even mean? It already sounds mysterious and intriguing, and I genuinely needed them to show us more. I'm really excited for both projects, and I can wait for more information. Still with the same company, we finally got a release date for Handsome Laundering, and it's coming on March 26, 2026. This game features two protagonists with two different love interest groups, each with their own main story. It also continues the story from the drama series, serving as a prequel episode 0. And here's something interesting. I noticed in their YouTube video description that the game might also be coming to Steam. Officially, their social media only mentions a Nintendo Switch release for now, so maybe they're focusing on Switch first and Steam will follow later? As for English subtitles, we don't have confirmation yet. Game Smell and Bloom initially had subtitles that weren't great until P-Cube stepped in and improved the localization, so maybe Handsome Laundering could follow a similar path? Could that be why Steam was mentioned? We don't know for sure yet, but either way, I'm definitely keeping my eyes on this one. And we are being surprised again, this time by another company deciding to localize their Otome game in English. What makes this even crazier is that it shares the same rudder as Firge and Code Realize. This game is by Primula and the title is Navigator of the Ruined World. The story takes place in a post-apocalyptic world where only two humans have survived. In this world, there are multiple endings. They might slowly develop romantic feelings and walk forward together, or they might fail to understand each other and choose to go their separate ways, or they might even decide to give up on life entirely. When I found out that Primula decided to make English version of their game, I was honestly shocked. I really didn't see it coming, but of course, I'm also incredibly happy. The premise is so unique and emotionally heavy, and I feel like this game is going to be a complete roller coaster of emotions. Even though there's only one love interest, I'm absolutely not complaining because he is seriously my type. And just look at the spur messages, the intimacy, the way he blushes. Yeah, I can't wait to try this. Okay, are you still with me? Because the next news might shock you even more. In fact, this is one of the Otome games I'm most excited this year. Another upcoming release that completely shocked everyone, including me, is Goddess of Tears Restoration. This is an R18 Otome game, and for the very first time, the developers are creating the English version alongside the Japanese release. Oh my gosh, our Otome community is being fed this year. I love it. This game used to be free and was previously known as the Goddess of Tears, commonly referred to as Goddess. As 2026 marks the 22nd anniversary of the series, a full remake has officially been decided. This remake includes overall scenario revisions to make the story easier to understand, deeper romance development, full R18 scenes for every love interest, and a complete graphic overhaul. I'm so excited for this game is because it looks so freaking good. I was completely blown away by the art. It's absolutely beautiful, and the setting, everything about it just looks incredible. On top of that, it seems like there will be gameplay elements such as stat rising and turn-based RPG mechanics. So yes, another Otome RPG with actual gameplay. That's honestly crazy. You guys are going to love this. Seeing another company decide to localize their Otome game into English really made me realize how much our community's influence has grown. And honestly, I love this. This is the main story PV they posted on their Twitter, and just watching it makes me want more already. And guys, look at this jealousy promo CG. Do you see why I'm losing my mind over this? Yes, it's an 18 plus CG, so I can open it, but the dialogue is absolutely wild. I need to make a dedicated video once we get more information. Just you wait. The Japanese release is expected in summer 2026, while the English version is planned for fall 2026. If you didn't know, Amulit, a company under Voltage that focus on console Otome games, has officially released Neon Clash in English on December 25th. This game follows Liu Croa, a protagonist determined to revive the name of her fallen mafia family. Personally, I've been wanting a mafia Otome that really fits my taste, and I'll be honest, I'm pretty neutral about Pio Fiore, even though I really wanted to love it. So, seeing a story centered around rebuilding a fallen family, combined with themes like danger, loyalty, and personal resolve, plus love interests from diverse backgrounds, made Neon Clash really intriguing to me. I might play this in the future, and if you have already played it, I would honestly love to hear your impressions. The game that was originally supposed to release last year but was delayed for unknown reasons is finally coming to Nintendo Switch this January 13. Temirana, the Lucky Princess, and the Tragic Knights. I'm personally really interested in this one. The premise of a so-called cursed princess and 5 knights from different backgrounds immediately caught my attention. And honestly, romance with knights just always sounds incredibly romantic to me. I'm especially curious about each knight's backstory, the world building, and what kind of path the story will choose based on this unique setting. After a long wait, Amulit has finally shared new details about their upcoming Otome game, Sins of Kaleido. I remember this title was originally planned to release in 2024, but after being postponed, it's now scheduled for a 2026 release. And surprisingly, this game is actually part of the Witch series, expanding from the Even If Tempest universe. The story follows a once-beloved child from a wealthy family who lost everything. With ambition burning in her heart, she encounters a group of heretical men who possess the power of witches. Just from the premise alone, I think this game sounds really interesting, but I'll be honest, I'm still a bit conflicted about whether I'm the right audience for it, especially after seeing some of the love interest keywords floating around on Twitter. For now, I'll probably wait for more information and see how people react once it releases. But if this sounds like your kind of game, you might want to keep an eye on their official socials so you don't miss any updates. Now, after something that leans darker and morally intense, let's talk about another Otome classic that's finally getting ported after years. Yes, Starry Sky in Spring is coming to the Switch in 2026. Even though I've never played the Starry Sky series myself, I clearly remember how often this title was mentioned back when I first got into Otome games, especially when I was searching for English patches. It really was that popular. I think the reason I never played it back then was honestly because I had no idea how to install the patches. If you didn't know, Starry Sky in Spring is the first game in the series, and it tells the story of Tsukiko Yahisa, the first female student to enroll at Sekitsu Academy, a former all-boys school that specialized in astronomy. She befriends several young men whose personalities are based on Western zodiac constellations. Wait, zodiac-based personalities? This is actually my first time properly learning about the premise, and that sounds really fun. The combination of their personalities and their dynamics feels like it could be really interesting. So yeah, I think I need to look more into this game. I'm honestly so happy to see older Otome titles finally getting ported, and I really hope more classics to follow. And while we're talking about Otome titles that keep getting love from their developers, this next update is going to make Even If Tempest fans really happy. Yes, there's going to be another new story, specially written for an upcoming drama city. More details will be shared later, so stay tuned. From what we've seen so far, it's full of flowers, lots of white. I don't know, is this wedding content or what? I have to say, when it comes to extra content, Amulit really never holds back. And considering that's what they've been doing for years, yeah, no wonder, Even If Tempest fans are always well fed. But if you thought that was already exciting, this next announcement completely broke the internet. And that is Overrequem's localization news. And it's happening only 6 months after the original release. That is actually insane. And honestly, the way this news came out was so funny. Access accidentally revealed it on their YouTube channel before any official announcement, but of course, fans were way too fast and immediately shared the link. By the time they unlisted it, it was already too late. It was so funny to witness, but still, localization after just 6 months? That almost never happens. It honestly made me think maybe I shouldn't have bought the Japanese version if I knew this would happen so soon. But then again, I wouldn't get the extra items without it, so fair enough, no regrets. I'm just really happy for you guys. Overrequems will be coming to Switch in summer 2026. And while Overrequiem shocked everyone because of how fast the localization happened, this next announcement hit just as hard, but for the complete opposite reason. After years of waiting, it's finally happening. the localization of the Biroshana fanbase is officially coming in 2026. This fanbase will continue the story after the base game and even give main roots to side characters, which means yes, you can finally romance everyone. I'll be honest, I'm personally pretty neutral about Biroshana, but seeing how long fans have waited for this and how happy everyone was when the announcement dropped, it genuinely filled my heart with joy. Is this what people mean when they said happiness is meant to be shared? Because wow, it's really contagious. I'm so happy for all of you. And speaking of localization announcements, not all of them came without mixed reactions. The next title is the English release of Otome Fighting for Love, scheduled for March 26, 2026. This is another game that honestly I didn't really expect to get localized, especially after seeing a lot of criticism from the Japanese side. At first, I was actually really excited for this game, but after seeing mixed reaction, especially regarding how short the volume is, despite being part of the Otome Sweet Box, I started to feel a bit concerned. I'm not entirely sure whether the criticism is about the story itself or if people are mostly unhappy with the price, since that seems to be the main issue I've seen discussed. That said, I still think this game looks really cute. The comic panel style presentation feels refreshing and it gives me strong shoujo manga vibes. Maybe this is the kind of Otome that works best as something like short and sweet, so I'm definitely curious to see what the full experience will feel like once it releases. And then, there's one more localization announcement that honestly caught me off guard, and it's also releasing in March. The title is Homura Crimson Warrior. I didn't think this game was particularly popular, but it shares the same artist as Hakuoki, which immediately caught my attention. It's set in a historical wartime setting, and while the art is absolutely gorgeous, to the point where it really makes me want to try it, I'm still a bit conflicted about whether this game is for me. War settings makes me feel a little wary, especially because I struggle with repetitive battle-heavy pacing. And Biroshana is also a war setting title, which is why I've been cautious about games like this. I'll probably wait for more detailed impressions about the game's flow before deciding. But if you enjoy Biroshana, this might actually be right up your alley. After talking about historical and war-themed settings, let's shift to something completely different. A brand new Otome game announcement from Takuyo. Takuyo has just announced a new Otome game called Yukiko no Machi no Lobster. And not gonna lie, when I first saw the title, I genuinely thought it said lobster. I personally haven't played many Takuyo Otome games yet, but I've heard so many good things about Distorted Code, which was also developed by them. People often say the story is incredibly gripping, the kind that keeps you on the edge of your seat and makes it hard to put your Switch down. And I love games like that. So far, Takuyo has only shared a short premise, but it already caught my attention. The story is set themed within a white oak forest where there exists a god said to grant wishes. In a quiet seaside rural town, there are slightly twisted relationships between people, along with hope and a secret that no one wants to reveal and can reveal. One day, the protagonist meets a man with amnesia in the white oak forest. And just from that alone, I'm already curious, what is the secret they're hiding? Who is this amnesiac man? And what kind of world building are we about to get? They've already revealed the main character and the love interest, and I've already spotted 2 allies that totally fit my type based on appearance. Yes, I like cold looking guys. We don't have cast details or much more information yet, so for now we wait, but this is definitely one I'll be keeping my eyes on. And speaking of Otome games that keep people waiting, this next announcement made longtime fans incredibly happy. Yes, Carrot Maniacs is finally getting a fanbase after 7 years. 7! I'm genuinely so happy for the fans. Saying this honestly made me think, wait, does this mean there's hope for other games too? Mistonia FD maybe? But back to Carrot Maniacs, this fanbase will focus on the story after the base game, after all the truth has been revealed. And listen, I've watched the FT trailer and I swear almost 5 minutes of it was just kiss scenes. So yeah, based on the trailer alone, this fanbase looks like it's going to be full of fluffy, lovey-dovey content, and you guys deserve it. And now, let's talk about one of the most awaited upcoming Otome games that just dropped a demo. Unlogical has officially released a demo, and the full game is set to launch on January 2026. So it's coming really soon. While waiting, you can actually try the demo right now. I haven't fully played it yet, but I did open it briefly, and wow, the opening, the UI, the visuals, everything about it just screams quality. It fits perfectly with the game setting, which is a virtual reality world. At first, I wasn't super interested in this title, but after seeing more of it, yeah, it finally caught my attention. For those who don't know, Unlogical is a virtual reality game that can only be played by invitation. Most participants join for the reward money, but soon find themselves threatened by dangerous side effects caused by the game. As for me, I think I'll wait a bit before jumping in because I have a strong feeling this one might get localized. A lot of new projects from different companies have been getting people really excited, but that doesn't seem to be the case with Otomate's latest announcement. Otomate has just revealed a new project based on Omega First called the Otomate First Project. According to the official description, this isn't meant to be a traditional Omega First story. They are reinterpreting the concept specifically for Otomate titles, focusing on an adult romance between a man and a woman, something described as emotional, intense, and sometimes even heartbreaking. More details will be revealed at Dessert the Otomate 2026 on February 15. Honestly, I don't really have a strong opinion on this yet, mainly because I'm not very knowledgeable about Omega First myself. I understand the basics, alpha, beta, omega, and the intense dynamics between them, but beyond that, I'm still pretty unfamiliar with the genre. And judging from the reactions I've seen, this announcement has definitely sparked a lot of mixed feelings. Some people seem unsure and confused about why Otomate chose this direction. Still, since Otomate keep emphasizing that this is a reinterpretation, and the synopsis actually sounds interesting, I'm personally choosing to stay curious and wait to see what they're really cooking. And speaking of unique premises, the next game I want to talk about has a concept we don't really see in Otome games. I haven't seen many people talk about this one yet, but it was just too cute not to share. Is it okay to fall in love with an idol, or Idol Nishicha Dame desu ka? A free Otome game is getting a continuation and has just officially opened a Steam page for its complete version. This complete version adds individual romance roots to the original free game. In this game, you play as the manager of a new idol group called Melonchu. Your goal is to make their first live performance a success, and romance with the idols is a big no-no. But the problem is, their favorability levels are already at maximum from the very start. So how are you supposed to survive in the situation? A first in the world of Otome games where you are forbidden from embracing their affection. In fact, to increase the life success rate, which is your main goal, you actually need to decrease the idol's affection toward you. I mean, imagine the dilemma. What would you choose? I think this game is going to be really fun to play, especially to see where your choices lead. And one important thing to note, the demo on the Steam page is actually the free complete version. You can play all the way to the ending for free, and I think this is a great option if you're looking for a short Otome game that's fully focused on romance. Sometimes we just need something lighter to fill our romance meta, right? So while we wait for the continuation, you can try the free version first. After Blackish House A was ported in 2025, now it's the turn of Blackish House Z. Yep, they will also be ported to Nintendo Switch in 2026. I've heard a lot about this game and I do want to try it myself. From what I've heard, the game really focused on the love interest backgrounds, and all of them are described as troublemakers with very Blackish personalities. That actually makes me curious about how the romance and love development with the MC will evolve because I don't think it's going to be easy. Since I personally like deep layered characters, this definitely caught my interest. That said, I have a feeling this game might be quite heavy emotionally and I'm not really in the mood for something like that at the moment, so it's not my top priority right now, but I do want to try it someday. If you have played the game before, please share your impressions in the comments, I would really love to know. We've been seeing a lot of older titles getting a second life through ports, and this one honestly feels extra special because it only happened thanks to the love from the community. I'm talking about the Switch port of Monomagia Cantabile. This game was originally released on PC back in 2022, and thanks to crowdfunding, they decided to bring it to the Switch with new scenarios, new endings, additional CGs, and even full character voice acting? From what I've seen, the PC version only had partial voice acting, so I'm really happy for the team. I actually just discovered this game recently while preparing this news for you guys, and from the synopsis alone, I'm already pretty curious about what kind of story they're going to tell. The story follows Hotaru, who gets sent to another world by the power of a mysterious playing card, and in order to return to her original world, she embarks on a journey to a place called the White Land. Since they're expanding the story for the Switch version, this feels like a game that can be enjoyed both by longtime fans and people who are completely new to it. This game is scheduled to release in May 2026, so you might want to write that one down. If Monomagia Cantabile was given a second chance thanks to community support, Volontes is experiencing something similar too. After a successful Kickstarter, Volontes will come in English sometime in 2026, and they will also release the Japanese physical version on March 26, 2026, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. If you don't know about Volontes, it's a dark fantasy suspense Otome game where the main character who has lost everything tries to find her way of life while facing tragedy. To be honest, I don't know yet if the English version will release on the same date because I haven't seen any official confirmation about that. I even tried checking their official website, but there's nothing. And based on what they said during the Kickstarter, they started working on the localization as soon as possible. So this might release around that time or maybe on a completely different date we don't know yet. For now, we just have to wait for more information from them. And while Volontes still leave us waiting, this next one actually already has a full release window. Lovers Enigma will be releasing its full story in March 2026. It seems we have a lot of Otome releases in March, huh? This is so exciting because this is also one of the games that I'm genuinely excited for. As I mentioned in my previous video when I introduced this game, the premise is just so unique. Not only because of the story where we're trying to uncover the truth behind our husband's death, but also because this game visual just looks so different from any other Otome games. With their black and white art style combined with their full colored animated CGs, which left me in awe when I first played the demo. And we can even romance our dead husband, so I'm really curious how they're going to handle that because he's already dead, right? So how our love story would be like. So yeah, if you haven't wishlisted the game yet, don't forget to do so you won't miss it when it releases in March. Some of this news honestly came out of nowhere, but this next one made me stop and go, wait, since when did this exist? And maybe some of you didn't know about this either, because today, we're talking about Best of Fellows Full Circle, a spin-off of Best of Fellows. I genuinely had no idea this was a thing until now. Turns out they actually shared about it some time ago. Best of Fellows Full Circle is a spin-off of the Best of Fellows series, and it's described as a text adventure game, so not exactly an Otome game then. You play as a person living in Japan who connects with music and experience a fleeting connection with someone. And we don't actually know who that someone is yet. But wait, I just realized something while writing the script. The title is Full Circle. So maybe, is that the person? Are you thinking the same thing as I am? Oh, okay. That might be the case, guys. I can't say much though because it would be a spoiler. The game will only be available on smartphones, Android, and iOS, and the genre is described as a gentle, lonely adventure game, which honestly sounds kind of melancholic and very intriguing at the same time. There's no release date yet and not much information after the initial reveal, so I'm really hoping the devs give us more news soon because right now it feels mysterious in a way that makes me want to know more. Interestingly, a few studios have been quietly teasing new projects lately, and Licobits is definitely one of them. They've just teased their third project, Le Mirage Mystique. If you don't know, Licobits is the studio behind Uchronia and Unlogical, both highly anticipated titles, and Uchronia itself performed really well sales-wise when it released. We don't have much information about this project yet, but the short description says, the story is set on a beautiful island where a girl witnesses a terrifying miracle. They only shared a few lines though. Welcome to Mirage, I'm happy to meet you. I hope you have a wonderful journey. And yeah, that's it. That's all we know for now. They did share a small glimpse of the art though, and even from that alone, I think it looks really good. The art style feels soft and calming, and for some reason, it really reminds me of the manhwa Your Majesty Please Spare Me This Time. I love that manhwa art style so much. So yeah, this definitely made me excited to learn more about Licobits' next project. They've been absolutely killing it with their previous titles, so I honestly have pretty high hopes for this one too. Another news I genuinely had no idea existed is Jakjan sequel production. They shared this during their 3rd anniversary, and wow, I really didn't expect them to make a sequel. I'm so happy for the fans and honestly for myself too, because I'm finally planning to play Jakjan this year after realizing the charm of this game. And theater has always been something I admire and adore, so I'm really excited to dive into this world. It's been almost 2 years since that announcement, which honestly makes sense. I don't think this is the kind of game that can be made quickly, especially with its premise and gameplay. Maybe we'll get more information during their 5th anniversary this March, so while waiting, I'll be playing the base game first. And if you're a Jakjan fan, tell me why you love this game. I need the hype so I can get even more pumped up. And that wraps up all of the Otome news you need to know. After seeing all of this, I have such a good feeling about the future of Otome games. It really feels like the waiting we've been through as longtime fans is finally starting to pay off. More localizations, more interesting new projects, and more Switch ports. At this point, I honestly don't think we need to worry too much about popular Otome games getting localized anymore, especially after seeing how fast some of these announcements happen. Of course, companies are still testing the market and they'll keep localizing titles we don't expect, but overall, this is still a really good news. So, if there's one thing we can learn from this, if you want your favorite Otome games to be localized, hype them everywhere, let them know. You never know what those efforts might lead to. And now, I'm curious, out all of the news I shared today, which one are you the most excited for? And what Otome game are you manifesting to get localized or ported to Switch next? Let me know in the comments, I would love to read them. These unexpected announcements actually reminded me of Mistonia's Hope, a game that also surprised me and wasn't what I expected at all, in a good way. So if you're curious how that turned out, you might want to check out my previous video, maybe it will help you find your next Otome match too. And that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for spending your time with me and hyping this news together. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye!